Salutations, young ones. I see that you are interested in learning of what is indeed the number 6 DPS in Overwatch, currently utilizing the Grandmaster rank of competitive play. And let me assure you that you have come to the absolutely worst place imaginable to do that. I mean, why wouldn't you just look up a tutorial or something? Or better than that, play the number 1 hero. Why would you settle for number 6? Well, anyway, welcome back to Stories in Overwatch Edition. On our last episode, we have answered the call of the hammer and decided to bring Christmas cheer to the masses via means of publicly embarrassing them. While I was under the impression that Torbjorn is, quite frankly, the greatest DPS hero to walk the face of this planet after taking a look at the Overwatch forums, I've learned that Genji might actually be higher ranked than our favorite dwarf. I know, it's a shocking revelation. Now, I don't mean to rip into that post too much, because honestly, I very much appreciate Josh No from the Overwatch development team having an open dialogue with the community. And while the things he said have sparked a lot of discussion, roughly 2 weeks ago, any communication beats no communication, and the misunderstanding has eventually cleared up. With that said, this post has led a lot of Grandmaster players to go out there and finally start doing God's work. By which I mean running it down mid on Genji to lower his win rate and prove the developers wrong, and then we start wondering why Jeff doesn't want to talk to us anymore. Now, I may not be a Grandmaster rank player myself, but I see it to be my responsibility to assist the community in their noble pursuit of lowering Genji's win rate to an extent that forces Blizzard to re-evaluate their decisions. Because for everyone who has been following this series of stories videos, you'll remember that there's not a thing in this universe that feels more gratifying than proving somebody wrong. And before you give me a hard time about doing this in quick play, I tried to go to comp, but after a 10-minute DPS queue, somebody left the match as soon as they lost the first team fight. Dude, I'm a support player. You can't expect me to wait 10 minutes to find a match. That's inhumane. Which means that our story today takes place on Numbani. While smashing railings and sheer disregard of the poor Numbani construction workers definitely makes for a fun way to kill some time, I decided, you know what? I'll go get some early ultimate charge. With a Mercy in my pocket and all of my abilities off cooldown, I was confident that the enemies wouldn't pose any real threat while I was tossing paper planes at them. Well, confidence is a flimsy shield. I didn't only miss all of my shots, but also got slapped no more than 5 seconds into the match, causing me to be the first person to be taken out. And that's the story of how we lost the first point. Just kidding. While 200 HP worth of ultimate charge didn't make or break the bank, it is definitely a sobering thought knowing that me being alive made about as much of a difference to our chances for success as though I was walking back from spawn. The way we actually ended up losing the point was via means of ultimate abilities that had me play Ring Around the Rosie with the enemy Winston, but that to no avail. Okay, I know I'm trying to lower Genji's win rate, but that doesn't mean that I have to actually throw the match. It's time to get my head into the game and at least make it a little bit more difficult for the enemies. Upon my return, I noticed that whoever survived the first point assault was scrambling to try and survive. The enemy composition featured a lot of mobility that turned them into glorified bloodhounds looking to leave no witnesses. Once I acquired my target, I was determined to try and help whoever was being chased, but started to take damage from behind. I knew that my time was limited, so I bursted down the enemy Winston and backed out to look for some healing. An unnecessary poke here, a couple healing nades tossed my way there, and the hamster realized that there was no easy cleanup to be had. The reinforcements have finally arrived and we started to somewhat resemble what was supposed to be a cohesive unit. We made our way towards the objective and Hammond returned to disrupt us once more. Followed up by a massive bionade, he saw an opportunity to finish what he failed to do just moments earlier, and the chase was on. Determined to finally send me back to Konoha, he chased me into the small health pack room just to realize that yes, that guy that was healing me earlier, he is still healing me. In a moment of desperation, he attempted to blow all of us up along with him, but had his ultimate cancelled through the power of our combined forces. With their Genji also biting the dust, we knew that we had to push our advantage. But just like the Hammond before him, the enemy Roadhog got baited into this tiny room to be massacred in similar fashion. Now, this is where the game really begins. Being 3 players down meant that there was no way in hell they could hold this card, leading them to fully retreat. Naturally, having all of that mobility, Hammond returned very swiftly and he was out for revenge. While not doing a lot of damage to us, he did buy his team enough space to make sure they wouldn't get spawn camped. And here, ladies and gentlemen, is where the first real team fight of this match takes place. A well-trained assassin knows that patience is one of his greatest tools, and said patience would be rewarded if only he knew how to identify an opportunity. Hearing the enemy Ana waste her sleep dart while seeing the auto ball roll out meant go time not only for my Dragon Blade but also for theirs. I swiftly disposed of their Ana and looked for a new target, diving into the Hanzo before the tree trunks he calls arrows could take me out. I wasn't quick enough to save our Baptiste, but eventually delivered righteous vengeance upon the second-class weeaboo. Seeing as how the enemy tanks were determined to hold their ground despite losing most of their team, I figured I could try to get some ultimate charge off of them. The blue beam reinvigorated my spirits, blew up my confidence, and turned my shuriken into, like, bullets, I guess? Point being, they actually did damage now. The Roadhog was critically low on HP and I decided to try and finish him off. After all, our entire team was poking in the choke, so I couldn't be the only one seeing a chance for stagger kills here, right? Wrong. I was left on my own, having to find a way out without actually confirming an elimination. What must have looked like hard feeding from my team's perspective led them to try and save me, allowing them to finally get that elim that I was working so hard for while the Mercy wasted her ultimate. But we weren't in the clear just yet, because the combination of having their spawn like 10 feet away from the cart and resurrecting the only kill we got meant that they suddenly had the upper hand. They aggressively pushed towards the cart, and while our Roadhog landed a sick hook to disrupt their hamster, nobody seemed to notice the enemy Roadhog trying to flank us, causing me to give my life in a futile attempt of stopping him and having to watch as he proceeds to destroy my Mercy. Now I know that this looks bad, but don't forget that this entire team fight took place right in front of their spawn, meaning we had more than enough time to regroup for another fight before they could reach the next checkpoint. Oh. I was gonna talk about how we got hit by Ana's Bionate that was perfectly threaded to avoid a defense matrix and splashing just a frame after my deflect descended, but I guess none of that matters anymore. Now, C9ing off the card is one thing that definitely does not help your team's morale, but having your Baptiste get hooked, killed through a matrix, resurrected to then get hooked again, also isn't helpful. Yes, we have absolutely been run through the grinder here, but there was one tiny glimpse of hope. The fact that they were investing ultimates and we weren't. Seeing as how my Dragon Blades ended up being fairly effective today, I knew that not all hope was lost. As I tried to find a good angle and opportunity to drop in with a clutch play, I was surprised and killed through my deflect by a camping McCree. In the year of our Lord 2020? Can you believe it? But if there's one thing I learned to trust in my time making these episodes, it's that cosmic punishment is inescapable. So I am happy to report that this McCree, for being an absolute coward, slipped his greasy fingers on the shift button to somersault his way into a Diva Bomb. After stabilizing that teamfight, we tried to find an advantageous position to fight the enemy team at, preferably one that didn't have us play with our backs against the wall. However, their aggressive playstyle ended up overrunning us once more. Our Diva lost her mech, allowing the enemy Roadhog to freely use his ultimate to push us back even further. Following up with a slam dunk on our Baptiste, I knew it was time for a hero play. With no camper to stop me this time, all I needed was a little more HP and a prime opportunity. With the Roadhog not realizing that I was still alive and the Ana having just used her sleep dart, I dashed into the backline, attracted their attention and opened a window for our Ashe to blow up her dynamite. While I wasn't the one covering the kill feed in glorious eliminations, our team play proved to have been the deciding factor then and now again. Nothing says desperation more than using your ultimate after having lost the teamfight to then just roll away like nothing happened. And it is now time to remind you of my previous misplay, during which I was under the impression that my team was pursuing stagger kills along with me, just to find out that they felt more comfortable elsewhere instead. Again, I was fairly certain that I couldn't have been the only one that saw their Hammond play grossly out of position while critically low on HP. And as I tried to go in for the kill, I realized that I did not learn from my previous mistakes. As much as I appreciated my Mercy putting herself in danger just to revive me, I would have wished for that kind of support before I bit the dust. Quite frankly, I feel like a lot of the enemy team's aggression could have been mitigated if we just properly pursued stagger eliminations to establish a favorable position for us. But because we never punished them for being out of position, they just kinda did whatever they wanted. However, considering that this is not an educational video series, and also realizing that I am playing DPS, it is time to react to all of that in appropriate fashion. You're all trash, why do I never get good teammates? DPS temper tantrums aside, we found ourselves taking a fight on their terms again, and my prime directive was grinding the enemy Roadhog to get another Dragon Blade. Thankfully, our camper extraordinaire was still suffering from the effects of karmic retribution, taking his own bullet to the face and allowing me to safely go on the flank. Sadly, while I was busy repositioning myself, their Mercy ended up rezzing him, and by the time I showed up, I ate the sleep dart and only mere moments later had to back out. We eventually stabilized after winning the team fight, but the same thing that happened the last two times happened again. We decided to jerk off on the card rather than pushing up and making sure we can take a fight on our own terms. I don't even know how to commentate this next part of the match because quite frankly, everyone was kind of everywhere except on the objective. I guess they're practicing for that upcoming 132 update. Who cares about team play anyway, am I right? Fast forward, take a log through the skull, see the weep get punished and demand a res once again. Roadhog wastes his ultimate just to get slaughtered anyway, and Hamster's doing, like, I'm not sure, but I think experts call it leading? I wouldn't know anything about that. With only 1 minute on the clock, I realized that we were awfully close to actually winning this match, completely defeating the purpose of me trying to lower Genji's win rate. So I went on the flank to 1v1 the enemy Moira and eventually cry about it on Twitter. But being the big brain support player that I am, I opted for the high IQ play of just walking away. Through grace of using a healing orb rather than their damage variant, I ended up surviving my lapse in judgment and officially contributed absolutely nothing to this team fight. I shifted my attention to see that the McCree had returned to his favorite spot on the map, and after a moment of hesitation, dashed into him with a Dragon Blade, ready to get flashbanged back to spawn. While a little frustrated over not being able to connect a second hit with a Mercy, I found myself surviving my own ultimate with barely 30 seconds left on the clock. Drastic decisions had to be made if I still wanted to lose this match, meaning that my Tracer and I went on the flank. And really, this flank went about as well as you'd imagine. We couldn't outdamage Moira's Coalescence, allowing Mercy to survive, and I somehow had to reconnect with my team. Just when I thought that we were still winning, their McCree eliminated 2 of my teammates with his Deadeye, and then got slapped in the face. Following that cleanup, the enemy team played right into my cards. They won the game! Ha, fools! You have successfully lowered my win rate, meaning that the Overwatch community is one step closer to the satisfaction of an I told you so directed solely at Mr. Blizzard and the Overwatch development team. Don't worry guys, we'll get Genji buffed eventually, one throw at a time. The end. Hey, thanks for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to not miss out on my next upload. If you want more and you want it now, feel free to check out my stories playlist in the description below. But this is it for me here today. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and until next time, peace.